Hey, yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. It go. It's by life to the afterlife. It's by life, ayy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. It go. It's by life to the afterlife. It's by life, ayy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. It go. It's by life to the afterlife. It's by life, ayy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. It go. It's by life to the afterlife. It's by life, ayy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. It go. It's by life to the afterlife. It's by life, ayy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. It go. It's by life to the afterlife. It's by life, ayy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. Yeah, we live that by life, last of a dying breed, and we throw a bread, you could tell from our pedigree. Bring your dog for training, but we treat him more like therapy. We do this for the Lord, dog, it's all about the legacy. It go. It's by life to the afterlife. It's by life, ayy.
Good. Welcome to another episode of Let Your Dog Talk. I'm your host, Eric Gonzalez, with my 4-day companion, K9 Judah. Listen, I'm here to help you guys become the best owners you guys can be with your 4-day companions. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know throughout the week. Right now through our live, if you have any questions and we can get your question in, we'll definitely make sure to do that. Judah, Scoop, come here, buddy. Where you at? Art? What's up, bud? How are you? Here's my 4-legged companion, my buddy. High five. Good. Cover. Good. Stand. Circle. Good. Circle. Good. Circle. Good. Sit. Stand. Fui. Sit. Pretty. Pretty. Good. Down. Good boy. How you doing? Good. This is my little four-legged companion here, K9 Jr. He's actually going to be 7 years old in July. Getting older. I'm working on his... Look at this. He wants me. He wants me. Fui. Back. Down. I'm actually preparing his son, BJ, for baby Judah. BJ, baby Judah. I'm working on him. He's about 8, 9 months old or what have you. And we'll be preparing him to unfortunately replace Judah as he's getting older. He's 7 years old already. But I'm looking forward to having him for a good 7 more years, being that he's so conditioned. Actually, Judah is actually the runt of his litter. But when a lot of people meet Judah, a lot of people see a very conditioned dog, because I know how to condition the dogs, and I did a lot of work in conditioning, training on diet, and as well as certain exercises. Oi! So listen, last week and the week before last, we got into a part 1, part 2 of general questions. And being that we have a lot of people inquiring, especially during these stressful times, a lot of people are stuck home, a lot of people are spending more time with their animals, a lot of people are benefiting from it, a lot of people are stressing from it. And so a lot of questions are coming in because of this, because of this time right now. A lot of questions are coming in, and I'm very grateful for it. And so I'm here as a professional. Listen, I always say this, I'm not the all in all, but a lot of people admire my journey, my 20 plus years. And so I get a lot of questions pertaining to my personal success, as well as, you know, the realms of training that I've allowed my dogs to achieve, unlike others, you know what I'm saying? So because of it, a lot of people have inquired of my advice, and therefore I'm taking advantage of just giving back. I love what I do. They say when you love doing what you do, you don't mind doing it for free. So this podcast doesn't cost anything for nobody. I'm here to just be a positive influence and really help you become a success with your four-legged companion. That's my whole heart's desire. So we've been talking about food or what have you. Listen, make sure you tune in to the previous episodes. They're very informative. I've been getting a lot of good positive feedback as to the information. A lot of young trainers, breeders, or what have you are tuning in. They're liking the information. They're encouraged. And I'm glad to be able to be a mentor even to those that I don't even know personally. Like people that I don't even know personally. I'm really grateful that I can impart into their lives and they take something from it and become a better trainer, a better owner, a better or what have you. All right, so make sure you guys tune in, and looking forward to hearing at least some good reports as far as the information that was shared. So going down the list, I actually want to talk a little bit about, I had a question come in pertaining, so I have a person that has a dog and they're working from home. Right now there's a lot of people working from home, and so questions are coming up pertaining how to create that balance between attending to their jobs, attending to their children, while attending to their dogs. A lot of dogs lack training because of their age or what have you. Maybe they're new to the family or what have you. So it's important to make sure that when you take on the responsibility to care for a four-legged companion, that you give it a balanced attention so that we can be productive regardless of the circumstances that we're faced with. And so we have one situation where the person is trying to work from home and they're trying to create a balance where they're not putting undue stress on the animal while they're working. So what happens is I have a method that's called self-correction. Especially the younger the puppy, the more self-correction I'm gonna implement versus initiating correction. What I mean by that is whenever you take a leash and you correct the dog, you're initiating the discomfort, okay, by your actions. When I create a system called self-correction, which starts with my elephant effect, and I'll break that down in a minute, it allows the dog to correct itself by its own action, causing the dog to think about its action, then calm down. So for example, the elephant effect would be, a lot of times people will come in and they're handling their dog, they can control them, and I'll tell them, do me a favor and just step on the leash and then relax. Free your hands up. That's called the elephant effect. Now, depending on the equipment on the dog, for example, a flat collar is not going to do much. But let's say I put a prong collar, and the prong collar is a simulation of the dog's teeth around my teeth, or the prong collar will represent my teeth, like mom has, like the dam has. It would be my teeth around their neck. So if the dog does something out of character, I'll correct the dog. So what I do with the self-correction is I'll do the elephant effect. Usually the dog will try to, let's say, lunge, jump, or what have you, and after a while it'll just calm down because it realizes that with its own actions, it's creating a discomfort, and therefore you're not the bad guy because the dog only initiates the discomfort by its own actions. All right? So it's important to understand the difference. You initiate a correction, fooey, no, nine, or what have you, versus the dog actually creating the same correction, but by its own actions, all right? So why do I do that? If I have a young puppy, I'm going to try to minimize the dog's stress because my objective is to build a positive dog. In other words, I want a dog that's going to be very confident in his behavior. So I want it to be as positive as possible as far as everything that I implement during those beginning stages of its life. It doesn't mean that because it's a puppy or what have you, I won't put a prong collar on. The thing is, when I do put the prong collar on, I'm going to make sure to set it up in a way where the dog fails versus me putting the dog to fail, in the sense where when I say failed is, like if I'm correcting the animal, the dog is failing, misunderstanding, not comprehending. And so I want to make sure that if that has to occur, it's done from a perspective that the dog is doing it independently by its own action. It's like the electric collar, it's okay. For example, the dog's a mile away, you correct the animal, you're not there, so the dog is going to associate that discomfort with its own behavior. So before we get to that stage, I want to make sure we comprehend and understand what is self-correction. So for example, I may have a dog that's rambunctious. If I step on the leash, the dog, again, with a prong collar, will correct itself a lot quicker, where the dog will stop lunging after maybe 2 or 3 attempts, whereas if it has a flat collar, it may stop after 10, 12 attempts. Why? Because the assertiveness of the correction is different. One's flat and one's proactive in that is actually digging into the dog. They did a test many years ago in Germany to show the effects of collars or what have you, and the one that came up on top was the prong collar, because what they found with the prong collar was the prong collar was so assertive that it controlled the animal a lot quicker, minimizing injury. When they tried other collars, the collars actually, because of the assertiveness of initiating the corrections with the animal, what they found was by them having to overexert the correction, they wound up creating a lot of spinal cords with the animals, whereas when it came to the prong collar, only 1 out of 50 dogs had a little discomfort or issue according to the x-rays. All right, so equipment is very important to understand. So if we can implement the equipment while the dog is a puppy, it's important to implement it, but minimize and or control yourself by disciplining yourself from eliminating your initiation of the correction, but allowing the dog to self-correct by the elephant effect. Again, I'm stepping on the leash, somebody walks in, the dog gets excited, corrects itself, does it maybe one more time, and then realizes that his own behavior is causing that discomfort, and it'll calm down, and it'll lay down, or what have you. And that's what we're looking for. And so guess what? Every time the dog creates a discomfort by lunging, and he looks at you to try to comprehend and understand, and they look at you, most likely what they're going to see is an owner with compassion, with free hands, saying, hey, baby, how are you? And that interaction conveys to the animal and or confirms to the animal that the correction wasn't done by us, but we're here to help if at all possible. See what I'm saying? However, if the dog is associating the discomfort with you, every time it gets corrected, it turns around and sees you holding the leash, it may want to retaliate because a bite is retaliated with a bite. In other words, the dog feels like you bit him as the owner, as you're controlling and initiating the prong collar. The dog may turn around and say, well, since you're biting me, I'm going to bite you in return, all right? So to prevent that, if the sooner we can get the dog to self-correct, the better we'll be in the long run, all right? That's very important to understand. I say all that to say this. For you moms, for you dads that are home with your children, and you guys are trying to work, you guys are trying to do homework or what have you, it's important to understand that if your dog has a comprehension of self-correction, you can easily work through your curriculum, whether it be a half an hour, what have you, and putting the dog in an elephant effect as close as next to you and or at a distance. Now, when you put the dog at a distance, you want to make sure that the dog is bound by some kind of structure that can retain or recreate the elephant effect. In other words, when you're stepping on the leash, you're creating the elephant effect. But let's say you're busy. Let's say your job or what have you entails maybe you need to constantly get off of your chair and walk around, and you can't necessarily spend time stepping on the leash. You may want to take the leash and just put it maybe on the bottom of like the corner of a sofa or some kind of table or a chair that's heavy enough to keep the dog from moving the structure. All right, so that can help you create the elephant effect. So let's say you're putting the animal in an extension, like you want to give the dog a break or what have you, and want to give it an opportunity to spend time, occupied while you're doing your necessities, your work or what have you, creating that elephant effect. Now, what they're going to eventually do is self-correct themselves and then come down. However, they'll learn that barking and whining doesn't necessarily create the correction that they were receiving when they were lunging and initiating their actions. So a good alternative, personally, I don't like to leave toys with the animals. Toys are too familiar with my furniture, too familiar with the structures or the things that I have around on a day-to-day basis in my home. And so, for example, if I'm giving the dog a fluffy toy like this toy has materials that are similar to the pillows that are on my couch or on my sofa or the pillow on my bed. Because if I break this open, cotton's gonna come out. That's odor here. If I have a pillow on my sofa and or on my bed, normally they're filled up with cotton or what have you, maybe feathers or whatever, but there's a lot of similarity. So if I leave this toy at will, let him do what he wants, he'll take my pillow that's on the couch and do the same way, treat it the same way. So to prevent that, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna make sure that when it comes to the toys are only given when I initiate play, right? Go get it, Rover, bring it back. Go get it, Rover, bring it back. And then I'm gonna tease the animal, and then I'm gonna put it away. Since I'm always initiating with toy, what the dog is gonna do is like look at the sofa and be like, okay, I want that pillow. He's gonna be excited, but guess what he's waiting for? He's waiting for Dad to throw the pillow because we got him used to throwing this. So I'm not gonna put the dog in a corner while I'm trying to work, giving him an opportunity to whine and cry because he wants to be with me, and leave him something that's gonna contradict my objective. What I will normally do is, which I like and I think is very productive, is bone with marrow. Bone with marrow is very effective because they're carnivores by nature, all right? And being that they're carnivores by nature, it's important to understand that the bone with marrow is going to entertain them because their wild instinct is going to kick in, okay? I want to also bring to your attention that while the dog is separated from you, and let's say the dog self-corrects itself and comes out, but barks and whine, a lot of times they'll bark and they'll whine because a lot of people forget why dogs go into an anxiety attack. Remember that dogs are pack animals. A pack is not a single individual. A pack is two or more members that make up a family unit. Being that they're pack animals, it's important to understand that they're not really intended to be separated from a pack. They need 1 or 2, 3, 4 members to make up the makeup of who they are by nature. All right? So all of this, my dog has an anxiety attack, is because you're putting the dog in a predicament that contradicts its nature. This is why a lot of times when you have a dog and you're starting to have anxiety issues, it's always good to bring an additional four-legged companion as a companion because it'll help the dog cope. And it's also believed that when a four-legged companion is accompanied by an additional four-legged companion, they'll give you a lot more years because now they feel an incentive to live longer because now they get into the spirit of challenging each other and a reason to live in that they want to impress each other, what have you. I had a good friend of mine who recently, the dog had passed away, but I remember meeting the dog. The dog was about almost 10 years old. It was a Labrador, and the individual obtained a female Dutch Shepherd from me. And when that Dutch Shepherd became part of the pack, that 10-year-old dog pretty much was revived in the sense that you obviously saw a major change of behavior. So it's very important to understand the value of dogs having that 4-lane companion. Because at the end of the day, as much as they're our best friends or what have you, no dog can be a company better than a 4-lane companion, that which they're familiar with. And I'm telling you, there are those that I've experienced where the change of behavior was extremely obvious, and you've seen a dog that seemed to have been going towards the negative or going down the hill towards like that deathbed and wound up reviving itself because of the companion. Now, a lot of times what you'll get with those relationships, you'll get a little grumpy little old man, responding as if they're jealous. But in many instances, that jealousy is just because they want to kind of exemplify that, but there is behind the scenes a joy because of that companionship. And again, it sparks the animal to want to live longer and fight for its life because of, let's give it the benefit of the doubt, that is jealousy. Because another dog came to replace, it's going to want to outdo the dog from that perspective. So I hope that helped you understand, you people that are home, at work, working from home, you guys that are in school, college, or what have you with your 4-day companions, and you fear the dog or your 4-day companion being irritable to you and to your environment while you're trying to focus while being fair with the animal, remember, put the dog to self-correct, which can be elephant effect directly with you and or on a structure underneath, a leash underneath the corner of a sofa, what have you, and to prevent the whining. Once they realize that the self-correction is going to create discomfort, but they find themselves wanting to whine or what have you, give the dog something that's going to occupy the dog during that period in which you're occupied doing homework or doing, whatever curriculum you're occupied or you must do or you have to do or you're pressed to do, that the dog doesn't become a hindrance, thus becoming a nuisance, desiring now the intent to want to get rid of the dog because you failed to comprehend and understand what was going on. Again, remember, dogs are pack animals. They need the pack. So there's no such thing as an anxiety attack as we may know it. It's just a dog communicating the stress that it's enduring because you're robbing it of the nature in which it was created for. All right? I hope you guys have a good understanding. That being said, before I move on, if I have time to move on, is there any questions? Because remember, hey guys, listen, I'm always accompanied with my 4-day companion, but we got our infamous hand that's always with us. And as a canine owner himself, he always might want to input or ask or confirm anything that was discussed. So before I move on, let me just confirm with the infamous hand, and see if there's any question pertaining to anything we just finished discussing. Good. Is there any questions or what have you of anybody online? All right, cool. Well, tell that person that we appreciate them hanging out with us. Please. All right. Also, we have one of our assistants behind you. Ask them, do they have any questions as a canine owner themselves based on the topic that we've discussed? Is there anything that you want to ask pertaining to that topic? You have a good understanding of what was discussed? Great. So, guys, we have a mini audience here again, and we're always honored when we have people that come alongside us, believe in our vision, and come and help us build this dynasty that we're trying to build for the benefit of you canine enthusiasts out there in America and around the world. So can we go on? I don't even know if we're gonna have time to go on. We've been on for what? We're already at our closing. So listen, I believe that as far as that question was concerned, I think we answered it to the best of our ability and or to the way that Bite Life would suggest. And if you came here crying out because you needed this assistance, and I've given you the best advice I will give you from the spur of the moment. A lot of these questions are brought to our attention momentarily or what have you, sometimes in advance, but I deliberately go out of my way not to study it, go through it, because I want to talk to you like a real person. Like I said, I'm not the all in all, but I want to talk to you like a real person. I want you to feel comfortable as if you came to seek out counsel or a consultation, and I want to be as raw and as real as possible, showing you the authenticity of my deal for this industry that I spent over 20 years making an investment in. And I know what it's like to get your dog and the enthusiasm of the responsibilities. And if we're not careful, sometimes we can get overwhelmed. And because not understanding certain principles of such relationship, a lot of times we'll abandon these dogs. Even to this day, I have dogs that have been abandoned under my care because it just overwhelmed the owners because they didn't have time, the job didn't allow it, or what have you. And so many dogs, because not understanding the psychology of what they go through and that their pack animals or what have you, and you know they may show what we call an anxiety attack or what have you. But not knowing these things, we have a tendency of just giving up on them, and I think it's unfair. When it comes to like you mothers out there, I feel like this. You know, when I have people bringing me dogs, sometimes I have to ask that question. You know, would you do that to your own child? And even though, I'm a big advocate to remind the owners that your dog is not a child, it is a wild animal. But when you look at the makeup of an animal, pretty much any animal that has eyes to see, nose to smell, ears to hear, you know, mouths to eat and taste or what have you, as we do, it's like sometimes I ask myself, how can you just get rid of a dog and give up so easily? You know what I'm saying? When at the end of the day, it's a good practice for the environment. I think it's a great responsibility, or at least a practice drill for children, you know, that have these dogs and can implement that type of responsibility right now, making them that much more successful as they go on in life. But anyway, listen, I had fun talking to you. YouTube, it's always a pleasure hanging out with you guys, with your audience. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Again, please send the questions. There are a lot of questions out there. The sky's the limit. If you have the question, there's a lot of people around you. But the difference between you and the person next to you is that you have the courage to ask the question, unlike many others. So be the leader for them. So I look forward to hearing from you and the questions in my inbox.